Hello, everyone. This is Joseph Watkins of RGN 99. We are fortunate for Black History Month 2025 to speak with and interview the chairman himself, anime, manga, pop culture enthusiast, Mr. Frederick L. Jones, the founder of Saturday AM, the international, if I'm saying it correctly, international Black historic manga company. Soon, I'm hoping to be also an anime company. How
Yeah,
are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. And it's a pleasure to finally have a chance to do a chat with you, brother. I really appreciate you making the time today. So thank you.
I appreciate everything that you're doing. Now, last time we spoke was about 3 years ago. You've been touring. Your featured manga, Clock Striker, was
Yeah,
featured in the Kyoto International Manga Museum.
right.
Um, the other hit, Underground, received the bronze at the 18th Annual Japan Manga Awards.
Yeah,
And you recently, last year, I believe, you spoke at Anime NYC.
yeah.
Now, can you share your journey into the manga industry a little bit for our fans?
Yeah, I mean it's really simple. I mean, I'm 51 years old and I grew up in the 70s and 80s. So, like I say all the time, I was one of those weird kids that understood that what I was seeing when I saw it was not Hanna-Barbera. That was like the normal thing back in the 70s and 80s for cartoons, Scooby-Doo, Super Friends, all that stuff. And then when you see something like Battle of the Planets, which is called Gotcha Man, or Star Blazers, which was
Yeah.
Space Battleship Yamato, when you saw it, you were like, again, maybe not everyone did, but I knew. I was like, this is not the same. The stories are different, things are just different. And
Mhm.
that sort of epiphany, led me to pick up the really incredible book called Manga, which really introduced the term manga to Western audiences in my library in Durham, North Carolina, from the great Fred Schlott. So therefore, I knew what it was called. Then I would start paying attention to model kits and things like that, which was, pretty heavily available at that time from Japan. Then I discovered Gundam, and then we had a family friend of ours who was a Japanese American who introduced me to Shonen Jump. Actually, gave me copies of Shonen Jump like in the early '80s, and I was like, oh, like okay, man, this is crazy. Like this is totally unlike comic books. And so I went to Japan the first time when I was I think like 15 or so through Duke University for a Sister Cities program. And at that point, man, it was done. It was done. Like, I mean, I was fully in, I understood what I was looking at. Again, this was all prior to the internet, right? But I understood, the whole thing. So, so you would find little pockets of getting more information about it. And then when I got into the video game industry, the roundabout way with it is that, I was successful in that because at the time when the video game industry was coming into its sort of more modern era outside of Nintendo with PlayStation, it was heavily dominated by the Japanese. So
Yes.
Capcom, Namco, Konami, all of that was like prevalent. And so, so someone like myself at that point was like, really positioned to navigate that space for Western companies because I knew it. I had grown up understanding the nuances of it. I had imported stuff from Japan back when importing was not even really a thing. So I
Yeah.
was like, so that helped me out a lot. I had successes with titles with concepts like Yu-Gi-Oh! I brought that into Blockbuster stores and I was an executive Blockbuster. And when I started Saturday AM, basically what had happened was that I saw two things that really stood out to me. One was that, when you're a kid in the 70s and 80s and you're creating, you discover manga, you do the thing that everyone does. You draw the spiky hair, you draw
Yeah.
the really big eyes, and you're like, okay, yeah, this is manga. And obviously it's very crude, doesn't look the same. It's like someone who's not black trying to act like they understand hip hop. It's very, pedantic. But uh you know, when I was coming out of the video game industry, I was noticing, wait a minute, like I'm seeing people from Africa, from Europe, from Latin America who draw so good. It looks just like Japanese manga. Like there's no like detours or sort of immature aspects of layout or character design. Like they were nailing it. And what it dawned on me was that, oh, when I discovered manga, it was rare. And here I am now. At that point, I was in my late 30s. I'm like, but now these
Mhm.
kids have grown up with manga, right? Like you're talking kids have grown up with manga since Cartoon Network and Toonami and Tokyo Pop made manga more readily available. And then Viz. So at that point, I that was my first like thought of like, okay, this is something that has a real cachet to it because obviously there aren't a lot of black or brown representation in manga. This has a real cachet to it because people can actually produce the artwork. But the bigger thing was staying on the racial side of it was that having been in the video game industry when I got started, I
Mhm.
remember going to my first E3 and there weren't any black people there. The black people there, I was there as an executive, and then the black people I saw, they were setting up the booths. Same with women. I remember going on my first E3, and a lot of the women were half naked booth models. They weren't executives, they weren't marketing executives. And I saw that change in the decade that I've been in the video game industry. So the thing that stayed with me about that experience was that I was seeing the same thing happen with manga. And I thought, wait a minute. I know just like in video game industry, a lot of black kids, including my nephew, one of my nephews was really into this stuff and is supporting it, financially supporting it. I know that there are talented creators like White Manga who are creating incredible content that if they were Japanese or if they were even Korean or Chinese, they'd be taken more seriously. But the fact that he's African, it's like, oh well, that's a neat looking picture, but you'll never make manga. And I started seeing the racial implications of that, and I thought, okay, as I've said repeatedly, Saturday AM and diversity in manga was the right thing to do ethically, morally, and financially because there was a huge opportunity there that we were already supporting the industry as it is. So that's really what brought Saturday AM to fruition was kind of that legacy of my knowledge about manga and anime and Japanese culture, and then being a proud black man and saying, why can't we participate at the same level that other communities seem to participate?
And I appreciate that. And for the record, Apple Black, 5 volumes,
Yep.
Clock Striker, 2 volumes,
Yep.
and I read Clock Striker. I liked it. It's pretty
Yeah.
amazing. The female black protagonist,
Yep.
disabled, genius mind,
Yep.
mentor, and the cornrow section, as the mentor was cornrolling her hair, I thought that was pretty authentic, and I also
Yeah.
thought that was pretty amazing. What were any challenges as you were starting as you were starting Saturday AM as a
Yeah.
black editor publisher? What were some of the challenges that you faced?
I mean, obviously, we still face them, but let me just say the one that affects every company, uh, every black company. Well, okay, money is always a thing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about people of color or women, and God forbid, women who are people of color. Funding is ridiculous. It's hard to acquire, right? So, I mean, I've given you my background, to a degree. Me saying I want to create a comic book company and create original IP really shouldn't be a shock considering all the things I've worked on. But I guarantee you, or I mean, I can point to examples of folks who've gotten funding, uh, who have far less credentials than that, but were able to
Yeah.
get funding. So the lack of funding is always a big challenge. There are things right now that we want to do that, just not having a gigantic base of financial capital that we can call upon makes
Mhm.
it difficult. We found ways around it, and again, I thank my career and individuals I've worked with, mentors I've had, black and white, queer and straight, who have shown me and demonstrated to me
Mhm.
how sometimes when doors are closed, you can still find a way to navigate around them. And that's what I've tried to employ with Saturday AM to help us get to where we are. But lack of funding is a big deal. The second one, I would say, and this is unique definitely to black people, I would say certainly to black men, but black women as well. And that is just the sort of hostility that comes with being black and a leader. I think that, as I'm sure I'm sure I know you've seen, we get
Yeah.
harassed, all the time, and harassment, comes to form by their bigotry and racism towards us being black, and a lot of it tends to be more directed towards the fact that it's like, well, why does this black guy get to make these statements? Why does this black guy get to be the head of a company? Why does he get to determine what's manga, what's not? And you always see it, and you're always like, and it's always fascinating because you're like, again, like it's not like my background isn't available on LinkedIn. It's not like I, look like I'm 10 years old. I mean, like, these will be 15-year-olds and 20-year-olds trying to argue with a grown man with an academic and a corporate background about the decisions that we've made. And as you indicated, our our success is not really a question, but yet you'll see people trying to make videos about, well, the way they market Clock Striker is wrong. And it's like, well, how would you market Clock Striker? And why have you not done it for yourself? Like, where's your manga at? You know what I mean? Like, so I do find that I remember Jeff Bezos, who, I'm not a fan of his current tilt politically, but him building Amazon. I remember he used to talk a lot about how there are so and this is a white man, but he's talk often about how when he was building Amazon, he would constantly have people trying to tell him what to do, and he would always have to point to the door and say, "What does that say?" Because then it says CEO. He's like, "So trust that I know what I'm doing and let me do it." So, but I do think that when it comes to black people in particular, and we see that we saw this with Barack Obama, and I
Yeah,
therefore think it's particularly something that educated black people in particular deal with, which is just that you have black people who do not like the idea that someone black is succeeding, and so therefore they want to try to tear it down. Fellow
a lot
black
of
people,
hate,
a
a
lot
lot
of
of hate,
hate
a lot of hate.
again from fellow black people, and then you have
Yeah,
other communities who just don't want to see it because it challenges their own perception of how great they are, right? Like like as you know, the term often is when everything has been built for you, equality can seem like oppression. And so when someone who is not black sees a black person succeeding and being very open about what we're trying to do and so forth to other communities, that can seem like a slight against them, as if like somehow like they had an easy road. It's like it's not about you having an easy road, but we certainly have had a hard road, and we're not going to sugarcoat how hard our road has been for your feelings. So
of
yeah.
course. Now, your success and you being, and I'm calling you the chairman.
Yeah,
Respect,
I noticed that.
respectfully,
I did notice.
respectfully, Chairman Jones.
Right.
Your ingenuity has led to being featured in the International Manga Museum and having your work receive an award in Japan.
Yeah. Yeah.
The can you explain for the audience what it's like, the discipline when it comes to editing, publishing a manga, and if you could just give us a walk through the editorial process when creating manga.
So So first of all, it feels great to get validation. I think that's frankly why a lot of folks on social media always try to, you'll see a lot of the harassment we get sometimes. It's like a lot of communities of folks who don't know each other, but they try to come together, right? Because they feel as if like, well, first of all, Saturday I'm so big that we kind of have to come together to try to match up against them, but also that I think this what's sad is that they feel there's a community. You see this in lots of other groups as well, whether it's right wing propaganda or whatever, where there's a sense that they dislike the same thing I dislike, or at least if I act like I dislike what they dislike, then I have a home. I have a place I can fit in. I have a place where I can be a part of. And therefore, then whatever I'm trying to do, they'll back me up, whether it's having my own manga or whatever. Um, so validation it always feels good. Of course, the question is what type of validation is it and what type of, and whether or not it's legitimate. So the Japanese who created manga, tell us that they really enjoy what we're doing. And, you named two sources, but I can tell you that, not too long ago, we defended a young girl, only manga company to defend this young girl, who created a fan art of Dan to Dan.
Yeah,
And
I remember that.
right. And so the Japanese discovered us. And Clock Striker exploded to being Volume two was number two in all of Amazon Japan, and Volume one was number one of all Amazon Japan. I'm still getting, and we've already had a number of conversations. We were already talking to anime studios, but we had more anime studios who came to us like, "Hey, our people are big fans of Clock Striker. We love to talk." And I just had a manga publisher reach out to me a couple of days ago from Japan, being like, "Hey, we'd like to talk about Clock Striker. We're big fans of it." So, I think that when it comes to legitimacy, it's always great. And the reality is that, again, for these folks to see what we're doing and say this is quality, especially because we didn't make it for the Japanese. We made it for fans of manga from around the world. We made it for representation of people who look like you and I.
Yes,
Um, and that to me, so that's a special type of legitimacy and validation because they're recognizing the authenticity of what we're doing and still loving it. Uh, as far as the part about the difficulty of the editorial side of things, the thing I always say internally, because again, I think we can spend a whole hour talking about the editorial process, but what I would say is that for Saturday AM, what has always mattered to me really three principles. Number one is that authenticity versus appropriation. I'm not interested in a person who can draw a great manga, drawing a really great manga that doesn't have anything authentic to say. If I remember getting on White Manga about this when he was doing Apple Black. I'm like, where are the black characters? I'm like, you're black. Where are the black characters at? You've never been to Japan. You don't know any Japanese people. You don't speak Japanese. Where are the black characters? He's obviously since done that, and that's what Saturday has always tried to push, is for our creators to be authentic to themselves. But that was a challenge that I had with him and the other creators of getting them to understand that you do not owe anyone else. You don't owe anyone to be able to tell stories that aren't special. Which you owe it to yourself to be able to tell stories that are uniquely built upon your experiences and uniquely built upon your understanding of the world as you see it. That's where the quality comes from. That's where the opportunities come from. Like I said, that's where the Japanese validate you. To that end, the second thing that's always stood out to us is dedication to the craft. I think oftentimes in this world we live in right now, a lot of young people get confused about the idea that they're trying to be celebrities on YouTube or celebrities on social media. So the
Mm.
manga is secondary. You got that brother now that who's very talented. I'm not a fan of a lot of YouTubers or IRL streamers or whatever you call them, but the Corey Kenshin guy, I've seen his stuff and I've seen him take some really good stances, which I appreciate because a lot of these guys take zero stances on
Shout
anything.
out to Corey. Shout out to Corey.
Absolutely. Now, he's doing a manga. Now, his thing was that like, now, well, like I said, now this is where I will be the old man to be somewhat critical. He's like, yeah, so now I want to get an anime and so forth. It's like, you see this all the time. It's like, buddy, do the manga. Be authentic to the manga.
Mm.
Worry about the manga. Let the manga speak for itself. If it's good, anime studios will come to you. Trust us, we know. But trying to jump the cart before the horse, there are countless scenarios where that has not worked. And so
Mm.
that's where I always tell my folks, and again, he can do what he wants. He's got tons of followers, lots of
Mm.
money. He can do whatever he wants to do. He could probably make the animation himself if he wanted to, if he felt like investing in himself like that. But the reality is that I tell all of our folks, if you don't care about the manga, no, the readers won't either. If you're
Sure.
not committed to telling a story, however long it takes and whatever form it takes, the readers won't care. It's that simple. And so there's a reason why our characters are on shirts and things like that, and not because we are popular on social media. I don't have a following like that, and yet Clockstrike is more popular than anything that a lot of other folks are doing. So, again, it's like, and neither is the artist, right? We're not as popular as White Manga, and Clockstriker outsells Apple Black. So like that is the element there where you understand it's about the work. Focus on the work. Be authentic to the work. Care about the history of the work, and that will blend through to the fan base and to the communities who will give you proper legitimacy. The last thing I would just say to that is that, and this is the key. This comes back to the whole race thing. Is again, when I see a lot of folks out there, and you see them all the time on social media, the term I use is you cannot out Japanese the Japanese. So when you're going out of your way to try to create manga content that looks like it's from Japan, Japanese characters, Japanese names, Japanese locations, and you ain't Japanese, you've never been to Japan and so forth, like you are not gonna out Japanese the Japanese. They're not gonna look at you and be like, oh man, he told our story better than we do. That is not gonna happen.
Mm.
And therefore, if you're going to do it authentically and so the capture of the whole thing is that so when I see groups who pop up and I question like what is your identity, what is it you're trying to do, the thing that always catches me is when they have that conversation and they go, well, we were going to beat Saturday AM, and I'm like, buddy, if you're not going to out Saturday AM either. So at the end of the day, if you're not going to out Japanese to Japanese, what are you trying to be, the poor man's Saturday AM? Like, who the hell wants to be the poor man's Saturday AM? Like, be something original for yourself. Be something original for yourself. There are a gazillion manga publishers in Japan. You got Weekly Shonen Jump, Weekly Shonen Magazine, Weekly Shonen Champion, Weekly Shonen Sunday. Those are like the four major magazines for shonen that generate a lot of the anime that we in the West get to see. Where is that in the West? You got Saturday AM, and then where are the viable other companies who have very clear lines of things that they do that are different from Saturday AM, because Weekly Shonen magazine is very different from Weekly Shonen Jump. Like what they specialize is very different. Weekly Shonen Sunday is very different. So I can just go out right the bat. Weekly Shonen Jump, we all know what that is. Weekly Shonen Champion, you've got Baki. Baki is
Mm.
unlike anything in Shonen Jump and so on and so forth. Weekly Shonen Sunday, you got Detective Conan. There is nothing like Detective Conan in any other magazine. Weekly Shonen magazine has Fairy Tale. It has Blue Lock. It has a lot of like really kind of aggressive or really sexy sort of material. You don't really
Mm.
see that in Shonen Jump or Shonen Sunday or Shonen Champion. So it's like, where is that, right? So again, it's like be authentic to what you're trying to do. Find a path you're trying to go down and stick to that because
Got
that's where the opportunity lies at.
got you. And then at a conference when you spoke at Anime NYC, you mentioned that there were two different viewpoints or vantage points. The show floor where the fans
Yeah.
and the people talk, and then the boardroom
Hmm.
or the major business area. And you
Mm.
mentioned that you were the only person that looked like us within the boardroom.
Yes. Yes.
Could you care to speak a little bit more on that? Because while a lot of African Americans, Black, Brown individuals are fans of the anime culture, a lot don't know what takes place in the marketing offices or the major areas of business to promote the brands.
Yeah, I mean, again, we could have a very long conversation about just
I know. We might have to
yeah,
do a part two. We might have to do a
yeah,
part.
yeah, because that one, I mean, there's an event happening right now called Comics Pro, and it moves around every year. It's an event where you talk directly to comic retailers and so forth. This is the first time in a couple of years we haven't gone, and a lot of folks were asking where I was going to go, and I was like, I've got some personal things going on. Plus, we got some big stuff for Black History Month. Had a couple of signings. We got Orsha coming out, and just a bunch of things kind of on my plate and a bunch of big shows are going to this year. So I just couldn't swing it. It didn't, plus, Diamond went out of business. So there's a lot of things going on politically with it. I
Wait,
just
wait. I'm sorry. You said Diamond went out of business? Serious?
well, Diamond Child filed Chapter 11. And so a lot of companies got
Oh,
hurt in that process. And so again, we weren't caught up in that, but I know a lot of other companies were. And I'm positive that's taking a lot of the conversation at the show this weekend as opposed to the stuff that I would want to talk about.
no,
But
no. It's perfectly fine. This is just news to me.
yeah, oh
Something
yeah.
I don't see on the news feed these days.
Yeah, no, you Google it, it's up. I mean, in fact, some of the news coming from the show right now, because it's happening right now, is that this publisher, that publisher has gone to Lunar or Penguin Random House or whatever because they're Dark Horse. I mean, Diamond. Sorry, not Dark Horse. Diamond is kind of out of commission for at least a little bit. Again, perhaps forever. I don't know.
Wow.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, the bottom line, what I would say is that so there's a couple of things. Number one is that it's very difficult in these spaces when you're the only person of color. I've been doing it my entire career, so that's why, again, like I said, for me, it's not super complicated
Mhm.
because I've experienced it my whole career, having been in corporate America. So it's not super complicated. But on the other hand, you know, there's always that challenge of being able to advocate for positions that are meant to help the industry as a whole. And at the same time, advocating for what is the right thing to do morally in terms of better representation, better access. Uh,
Mhm.
as I've said repeatedly in the conversations I have with companies, there's saying you care about diversity is great. Saying you care about diversity and then actually helping build a ladder that adds to the diversity of the environment. That's a whole different story. I care about the ladder. I want to know, like, what are you doing to help people pull themselves into this platform with us and then help make everything we're doing better by simply being here? What are you doing to improve the opportunities for people of color to ascend into the space? That's far more powerful to me than saying you care about diversity. So, you know, I think all those things matter. What I would say is that, again, the problem with a lot of those groups and so forth, and it's not again. I think it's like everything in America. It's like the government. It's like everything. It's not that there's any one individual that is against it. It's that there just aren't ladders, and there's just not sort of the understanding of the ladder and of the need of ladders to improve the level of diversity in these functions. So for example, again, lack of funding means that people just can't afford a trip out to Glendale, California this weekend, not to mention planes are falling out of the sky. So
Woo!
right? So you got all these things that kind of
Yes,
back a small black company or small minority led company to say, is it worth it for me to go? When you go, you're most likely going to be one of the people of color there. And so the question is, okay, well then, how does that do you explain what you're trying to do? Lots of groups are faced with this, female led companies, LGBTQ led companies. So it's not like there's not, other communities that have to struggle with this, Latino led companies. But that's definitely a challenge with it. Is just how do you navigate the space and find common ground to kind of express yourself when the reality is in some of these settings is that you can have the best presentation, you have the best product, and yet at the end of the day they're going to say, well, how does this compare to Marvel? And it's like, well, it doesn't.
yeah,
You can't compare me to Marvel Comics. Like I can't compare you to the NAACP. You can't compare me to Marvel Comics. Like there are differences there, and therefore whoever we're talking to in these spaces has to be receptive,
of course.
acknowledging that there are things that they might not just know or understand, and therefore they're taking a risk, just like I took a risk to be here at this show. I need you to take a risk and being able to give me the time and the latitude to come into your space and demonstrate that we are capable of being successful. Not to mention that some of these shows, you've got the press. The comic press does not do a great job of talking about black companies.
Mm.
Number of black owned comic companies that I'm sure you've seen that I've not seen get a lot of write up, whether it's the guys over at Godhood, I think, or I can't think of all the names of these companies, but there are a lot of folks out there who are doing work that I think are decent work. They don't tend to get a lot of write ups. They don't tend to get a lot of interviews. They don't tend to get a lot of comic previews, but a lot of other folks do.
Mm.
And so therefore that's a challenge, right? It's like how do you penetrate that? How do you get more of these companies interested in covering us and treating us with the same respect they will a very small company that's led by a white person? Like how do we change this? I've been trying to advocate for seeing more black specific media like what you're doing and off black and other groups. Like how do we get more of those and
Yeah,
get them
shout out
and
to
get
all
them
black
their
too.
access?
They're doing great work. They're doing
They
phenomenal
are.
work. They're doing.
100%. But are they at Comics Pro this weekend, right? Like
Oh,
no.
hello.
You know what I'm saying? Like, are they at Comics Pro? Yeah, sorry, it's a little bit. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. You're good. You're good. Just making sure the vid's good. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Make sure you're good.
Oh, okay, yeah.
All right.
I was just saying, so like off black, right? I was saying, well, off black, like, like, are they at Comics Pro this weekend, right? Like that's what I mean. Like, it's like the Comics Pro show. It's are they being given access to that? Are they setting up panels at New York Comic Con? Are they being asked to set up panels at New York Comic Con? Like
They
that,
are pretty
that's
expensive.
that's that's the thing I'm talking. What's that?
They are. They are pretty expensive. It's a lot just to set up a panel, or not
No,
a
no,
panel, but at least a
no, not a panel. That's what I was getting ready to say. No, it's
yeah,
not a
a booth.
panel. And so,
Yeah,
and trust me, because I know some of the folks who set up panels, and I'm like, well, how did you get this title? Why do you get to do this? Why are you setting up conversations about manga? Like, why
yeah,
isn't anyone else doing it? Because what the problem with that is that those same folks who are doing it, guess what? Like I'm not been on a lot of panels. Like you said, I've got the biggest black-owned manga company in the world. No one's
yeah.
when some of these people set up these panels, they're not saying, well, we really need to get Frederick's opinion on here, or at least get someone's opinion on here who's not the normal person.
Of course, especially one who moves in such a way promoting diversity.
100%. So,
Now,
so
oh,
that's
sorry.
so no, I'm just saying those are all the complications. So, like I said, so we can have a long conversation about that. But like when you talk about editorial, you talk about the industry and how it is to navigate those spaces. There are multiple complications that make it difficult, and a lot of it, like I said, is not. And I don't want anyone to come away with this being like, well, the industry's racist. No, the hell it's not. That's not the case.
Okay.
But the challenge with it though is that lack of engagement, lack of being challenged, which is what diversity does better than anything, is challenge your
Yeah.
perceptions. The lack of all of that means that we're in this kind of stasis where things don't necessarily evolve.
Mhm.
People are not recognizing it needs to evolve.
It's funny you say that. A lot of the major companies they have a lot of money and a lot of marketing, great marketing teams that can move and promote, their IP. Um, how does or what strategies have you been found most effective in promoting Saturday AM, the brand?
Listen, we've been around for over a decade. We just celebrated 50th anniversary like 2 years ago, and this is our 11th year now. Listen, I tell people I just had a talk with Cisco. They invited me to do a Black History Month conversation about building my company, so on and so forth.
Mhm.
There are a lot of things that I had planned in building Saturday AM. A lot of the stuff, White and Raymond and Jay will tell you were literally stuff I laid out a long time ago.
Mhm.
One thing that I did not foresee at all was social media. Social media, I don't know if we would be quite where we are without social media. Social media just happened to coincide with our growth and with our debut, and we took advantage of it accidentally and then deliberately. And in all cases, it's been dramatically impactful for our business. So when you ask that question, I can tell you again, it's literally social media. I mean, like without social media, we would not have built the audience that we have. We would not have circumvented some of the gatekeepers and some of the sort of nonsense that smaller companies and minority-led companies have to deal with. We wouldn't have been able to do any of that. Social media brought a lot of that to the table and continues to. So social media is the key. Now, the key thing about this is that do keep in mind what I've made very clear with my people is Saturday AM. And again, this is another thing that I think makes some groups dislike Saturday AM or dislike me is that yeah, I'm 51. Like I do have, and I have a corporate background. I have standards. I expect people to behave a certain way. I expect them to act a certain way.
Mhm.
Um, if you are someone who, is a bit too in your own feelings, then you might not be, if you've never had a real job, you might not be used to that. And frankly, a lot of folks never had a real job. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So so I think that all of that kind of adds to, I think, some of the challenges that exist
Mhm.
when it comes to that, because at the end of the day, uh, with us, with social media, we built it what I believe is a very honest way. When I look at some of the folks who try to build an audience or try to attack Saturday and so forth, or trying to compete with us, what's clear with social media today is that it's not about doing work and putting it up there. It's about gaming the system to get engagement. And therefore, what you'll see a lot of people who be more desperate to try to, I believe, embarrass themselves just if it's going to get clicks and get comments. They're
Mhm.
willing to do that, and we're not willing to do that. And so I'd rather just get 100 likes or 60 likes and tell a story the way that I feel like it needs to be told than to sit there and get 500 likes and 100 comments and have done it off the back of you know, doing something that I feel like would be disrespectful to me, to our community, to our culture. I'm just not doing that. And
No, no,
I'm not gonna let my people do that.
respect. And I think that is, in my personal opinion, that is the reason that you have dozens of creators, thousands of fans, and nearly 100 issues or 100
Yeah,
issues.
over 100.
Sorry, you have over. Oh, hello.
I love every part of it. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, every part of that you said is I'm like, oh, that's nice. I'm like, but every part of that you said was wrong. We have dozens of creators. We have over 100 issues. We have tens of thousands of fans. But yes, it is. Well, I'll say this: for us to have librarians, teachers,
Mhm.
CEOs,
Okay.
senior executives, major comic book professionals who advocate, push, promote, celebrate our work, that is a testament to us carrying ourselves a certain way. That didn't happen by accident.
And because of the moral, if I'm saying this right, moral integrity of the company and the values that you guys have, which have led to this.
Yeah.
And 100% want to give you a shout out and thank you. Um, Unfortunately, this is all the time I have.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it possible to do a part two for this? Because
Of
I
course.
feel as though the digital ecosystem needs to hear the words of wisdom from the chairman himself, Frederick.
Yeah, we definitely can do this a part two. Yeah. Yeah, I
Gotcha.
mean, we
Oh,
can definitely do it. Yeah.
because one thing I definitely and last question.
Yeah.
You created a convention.
Well, yeah, okay. So,
You
yes, yes.
you create
Not quite, but yeah.
it was
Yeah, yeah,
a con.
yeah,
It was in the Carolinas. I don't want to
yeah,
say the wrong one and get killed. Um, However, to come from because I was there when I saw you at Anime NYC in the beginning.
yeah.
from that convention, the growth, the awards, and now you have your own convention. If you could just tell the audience, and that would be my last question, just a little bit about the convention.
Yeah, okay. So it's yes, a convention. It's not, it's not even DreamCon yet, but it's kind of like maybe the very beginning of DreamCon. So what happened was that we did a virtual convention initially, and that did very well for us. We were very surprised at the turnout for it. And so we did, I forgot what year we did it in. We did that, and that's what gave us really the belief that we could actually do this. Like not only could we do this, we could like get like real visitors, like
Mhm.
top executives from other companies. We had like speakers from Tokyo Pop and from Hallmark greeting cards and all these people who came. But we can do this, and we can like do this physically, perhaps.
Mhm.
So NC Comic Con, which is Ultimate Comics, was the big chain in South,
Wait,
East
hello?
big chain in North Carolina. They were doing their NC Comic Con event, which is in my home. Yeah, I'm here.
No, no, I'm sorry. I think it might be
Can
a
you hear
lag
me?
on my. We still get the voice, just the video froze a little bit.
Oh,
So,
okay, oh, good, yeah.
okay,
Oh,
but we're
okay.
good. We're good. We're good.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So no. I mean, Alan Gill, who was the CEO of Ultimate Comics, founder of Ultimate Comics, he was doing NC Comic Con. It's in my hometown, and we had come off the back of two of those Saturday Con events digitally, which did really well for us. And I was like, yo, we should do a physical one. Our 10-year anniversary was coming up, and I really wanted to, get everyone in. And so we partnered with them and did kind of a con within a con,
Okay.
and it was fantastic. I mean, we flew in folks from around the world from Saturday AM. We flew in people from New Zealand, France, Denmark, the United Kingdom, all throughout the United States, and it was really a blast. I mean, it was a truly magical event. We followed it up with the second appearance at NC Comic Con. We didn't term it Saturday Con, but we did follow up with the event again and brought fewer people because it's super expensive to bring that many people.
Okay.
But we had a ball
Oh,
with that one. And so, yeah, I mean, we are eager to next. Yeah, yeah. I think I saw you first a little bit, but yeah, can you hear me now?
okay. We're good. We're good. King.
Okay.
Okay, we're good.
Yes.
Wait, froze again.
Okay, yeah. So, so yeah, I mean, so we'll be doing one. Oh, okay. Well, we'll be doing a big event. We haven't announced it yet. We'll be doing a big event. We believe very strongly in Saturday Con. We have some announcements we got coming up, which if we do a part two, maybe I'll be in a position to talk about.
Okay.
We have some really big announcements coming that I think are going to make a lot of people excited. But yes, having our own con is really special. The idea is that if you follow Shonen Jump, they do a big event called Jump Festa every year. It's basically like a celebration of all things Shonen Jump, all the different versions of Jump they have.
Mhm.
That's I wanted to do something like that. And so we have some things that we haven't quite done with it yet that we want to do. We got sponsors and supporters that would
Mhm.
like us to do it. So we're very confident we can pull it off. We're looking to do so in the next few years. But
Okay.
yeah, you can expect to see a really big show. But we've done it a couple of times now. We know what the sort of difficulties are, and we
Okay.
also know the opportunities, and the opportunities are really big because we a lot of fans came down from far away to see us, and that was really exciting.
Chairman Jones, thank you for everything. I really appreciate this interview,
Yeah.
and our viewers also appreciate it. If you do, you have any final words or advice to up and coming creators within the manga and anime space?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the one thing that is clear with us, especially right now with what's happening with Clockstriker in Japan, is that the Japanese, they are really excited about seeing stuff that, as I said, you can't out Japanese the Japanese. If you are authentic and you're doing something quality that is authentic to you and authentic to what you know, it will resonate with people who don't look like you. It will resonate with people from around the world. Everyone is eager. We live in a very globally connected world right now,
Mhm.
and people are really eager to learn about other cultures and communities. Think about this. If you are a young person and you're watching this and you're like, I love anime, and you live in a place that doesn't have any Japanese people, or it's maybe the furthest thing from Japan, whether it's in America, Europe, Latin America,
Mhm.
Africa, or here in the United States. You live in Nebraska, you live in Louisiana, you live in Mississippi.
Mhm.
The same way that you watch anime and manga and you are like really excited about one day visiting Japan, that's how a young Japanese person may look at your work and be like, man, oh man, this is so amazing. I would love to go visit where this crate is from, or the picture this person's painting of like southern United States or the western part of the United States or rural United States life. I would love to experience it. I would love to travel there because I'm so passionate by what I'm reading, the things I'm seeing for this person's work. I want to travel there. And that's the power of authenticity. That's the power also of and I'm talking specifically of Black people's voices. And we need to never shy away from that.
Chairman Jones, thank you so much. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate it as well. Thank you for inviting me.
No problem.